All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another week of Florida Rush College Advisory Program webinars. This week we have the distinct honor to bring back two of our alumni from Florida Rush, Nico Melo and Zach Reynolds, who have both were very successful with us in the club program and have gone on to do great things at the collegiate, international, and professional level. So first I want to introduce Nico Melo. Nico was a 2010 NSCAA All-American as well as a 2011 All-American. He played with the Florida ODP state team, was named to the ODP Region 3 team, spent time in the U.S. national team for the youth side, was called into the under-17 U.S. soccer residency program, and also played on the under-17 World Cup team. He attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he led UNC in assists in 2016, and also earned his way into the College Cup with UNC in Houston, Texas in 2016. Professionally, he has played for multiple MLS and USL teams. Nico, thanks for joining us tonight. Anything you want to say real quick before we get started?
No, just thanks for having me. This is awesome. I haven't spoken to Zach in a while, and it's always nice to come back to Rush and talk to some fellow Rush players and kind of give them my 2 cents on everything that's happened and how soccer has played a huge part in my life. So it's always nice to get back and help others. So thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Nico. Thank you. And we also have with us today Zach Reynolds. Zach was a high school and Florida Rush team captain, was also named to the Seminole County All-District team. When he was with Florida Rush, he was a state cup champion, a Region 3 champion, and also helped Florida Rush to their 2012 national championship. He was also on the Florida ODP state team. Zach went on to play at the University of West Florida, where he was team captain, was conference champion, was named to the All-GSC team and the All-South Region team. Professionally, he has played for two teams in Sweden, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce them. And he is now currently with the Michigan Stars FC up in Michigan. So, Zach, thanks as well for joining us. Anything you want to say real quick?
Absolutely. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. Like Nico said, it's always nice to get back with old teammates, old friends. Unfortunate for us at the time, we were that first group of Rush guys to come through. So to be able to turn around and get back to you guys, it's a pleasure to be on and have this call.
Absolutely. We greatly appreciate both of you. So I just want to start and go through your club and your high school years and probably bounce these questions between the two of you. But prior to being recruited, I'm going to ask this to both of you, but if you just want to spend some time on what team training, what your personal training, maybe private training and your weights was like throughout club and high school, and also, how often you did it with your teams and also by yourself. So Zach, you want to start?
Yeah. So as far as training with the team, growing up, we were training, at least 3 times a week, if not, 4 or 5 times, especially into the latter end of our youth days. And then as far as personal goes, anything you can do outside of what you do with the team is a plus, whether it's touches on the ball, whether it's fitness, whether it's getting in the weight room, just doing something extra, that somebody else possibly, isn't doing, to just further your game and grow as a player. Cause you never stop learning, even, to our day with me. I'm sure Nico can attest to this, you're constantly learning as a player. So anything just to benefit your game.
Yeah, great. Nico, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think team-based, we trained with Rush. It was 3 times, 4 times a week. And for me personally, when I wasn't training with the team I was actually on with Rush, I would be training with the older team, training with my sister's team. She also played at Rush, and she was 2 years older than I was. So I would be training with her team once in a while. And so, yeah, I really took advantage of that. And Rush, allowed me to do that whenever I wanted, which was huge for me. In terms of the personal, luckily my dad was my coach growing up. So, I was training with him when there wasn't training or even prior when I was younger. I was training every single day with him. And he obviously pushed me, as you guys, I'm sure everybody on this call your parents can push you probably the most and expect the most from you. So that was kind of my day to day, was just being pushed by my dad every single day personally. And then in terms of the weight room, yeah, and this is all prior to residency, and so eventually, my high school life kind of it changed a little bit when I got invited to residency. So it was this program where you'd go live for 2 years with 40 boys from all over the country, and really you'd be training every single day, going to school together and traveling and playing soccer. So that kind of really changed my experience and my way of seeing how being prepared as an athlete kind of goes. That was we were training 4 times, in the mornings. It would be 6 a.m. Weights, and then it turned into practice straight after that. And so that kind of became the norm for me. And so luckily I was able to have some great coaches and trainers who helped me kind of improve myself. And that kind of became the norm for me going forward throughout my high school career.
Yeah, excellent. We actually got to talk to your sister a couple of weeks ago on our girls webinar. And she tells us she taught you everything you know. So
I can't deny that. She definitely kicked my butt a couple of times growing up. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and Zach, I just want to talk to you, and when we get to the college, I'll get to Nico on the College Cup atmosphere, but just the environment around that national championship team in 2012 and the culture of that group. And I remember watching you guys scrimmage the team right under you, and you guys would go at it for 2-3 hours at a time. So if you just want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That 2012 team, man, that was a special group. We had been together. Our core group had been together for 3 going on 4 years, a lot of us. So the team chemistry was there, and we were just a dedicated group. We all obviously had great coaching up to that point, and it was just a special group. Going in 2011, we had a run, and unfortunately weren't able to bring home a national championship. And so that kind of, I think, motivated us going into 2012. And it was a big driving force, and just wanting to get back to that stage again. Playing the best teams in the country on that big of a stage. Knowing that coaches are out there, scouts are out there, and a lot of us wanting to get to that next level. So training was always intense. Our coach at the time, always knew how to push us and just get the best out of us. So that was our goal going into 2012, was just get back to that national championship and bring the trophy home.
Yeah, it was a special group. So Nico and Zach, I'll ask both of you this, but Nico, we'll start with you. So growing up, going through high school, how was your GPA and your test scores? How, you both went to pretty prestigious schools. So, just both of you having to look at that and carry your soccer along with your schooling and your test scores along the way.
So obviously, first, before anything else, before soccer is school. And that was kind of something that was instilled, with my family, and especially with my sister kind of leading the way. So school was a huge part in our household, and we had to maintain our GPA if we were, trying to keep playing soccer. So for me, I had a pretty good GPA. I wouldn't say it was the best, and in retrospect, I would have definitely pushed myself more, but it was like a 3.6, 3.7, and then test scores were, just good enough, obviously, to get into UNC, and it helped me a lot. But yeah, this is, I would say to everybody on this call, it's the most important thing going forward, for your futures, and it opens up a lot of doors. So just focusing on school is a huge part if you're looking to play somewhere and kind of push your career into college.
And Zach, your academics and your approach with dealing, with a team that played at, extremely high level through club and the travel and everything, dealing with your GPA, your academics and test scores.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the same as Nico, coming from a family that school is obviously first and foremost. And at the end of the day, it was about, still getting into a good school, still keeping my grades up, and being a good student as well as a good soccer player. So it was definitely a balance that I had to keep in mind, balancing soccer as well as schoolwork. And my parents, I was fortunate to have parents that never let me slacken either. So, just staying focused and being able to do both and balance your time. wisely, so that way you're getting the best out of both, and you're successful.
Absolutely. And just a reminder to all of our participants that are here with us today, if you have any questions as we're going through this, we will have a question and answer at the end. But if you have a question throughout the webinar, feel free to type it in the chat box, and I'll get to it with either Nico or Zach or both as we are going through the presentation. So this is a question for both of you, because I think, you know, especially during this time of lockdown, we've all had those days, but even outside of lockdown, where we just don't feel like getting up and doing anything. And you both have gotten to the professional ranks, and you can't slack, as you know, you guys said. You have to work when nobody else is working. So what kept you motivated on your laziest days? Zach, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. Yeah, like I said, it's definitely a tough time right now with obviously everything that's going on in the world to stay motivated. But for me, it's just knowing that eventually that day is going to come back, where we're going to be back on the field, and you have to be ready. You know, you can't slack. And a big thing for me is just whether it's fitness or on the ball, just knowing that as long as it's something, I'm doing something that somebody else isn't, and just putting in the time and the work, and hopefully looking forward to that day where we're able to get back on the field.
Yeah, I love it. Looking forward to the light at the end of the tunnel to keep yourself motivated, even on the darkest of days, right? So how about you, Nico?
I mean, like Zach said, I think the important thing to have in mind when, you know, when you're feeling lazy, when you're feeling like your body's hurting, whatever it is it's, you know, it's not right now that I'm thinking about. It's the moment where you get on the field, or that extra, you know, that extra minute in a game where everyone else is tired and you have that extra little bit of energy that kind of makes the difference. And so I think the way to motivate yourself is kind of thinking that way. And I mean, for me, it's something that I think is really important to always keep in mind is the more time you dedicate into your craft, which in this case is soccer, I think the more you're going to get out of it. And that goes for not only soccer, but anything you decide to do. You know, soccer is just kind of a stepping stone to the rest of your life. And so having that mindset of, you know, I'm going to put in the work now and it's going to pay off later. You know, I think that's really gonna help you get to that next level, whatever it is you guys want to do. So.
Yeah, such important advice. Thank you, guys. And what sacrifices did you have to make during the high school and club times to help you achieve your dream? And Nico, you can touch on, you know, leaving your friends in high school and going into residency camp if you'd like to as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a big sacrifice. I would say you know, for me, I was able to go to regular high school for my freshman year. And so kind of that change where I got invited to this program, and I'm only with, you know, the same 40 guys for 2 years straight. We live, breathe, eat, everything together, travel together. Such an interesting dynamic, I think, and especially for somebody, you know, so young who'd never really been away from home for more than a week, you know. And so this was kind of a huge change in responsibilities. And I definitely sacrificed a lot in terms of, you know, the social aspect there. There really weren't that many times where we were able to go do, you know, go to malls, go to parks, you know, go to parties, hang out with, you know, all of the cute girls, nothing like that, because we were so focused on what we had to do and our training. And I mean, in the time it can get frustrating, but in retrospect, it's something that's so special, and it definitely pushed me to better myself. And like I said, now, like my mindset with anything I do is kind of like put in the work, focus on what you're trying to accomplish, have goals, and if you put in that time and effort, it's going to come around and really pay off.
Yeah, and same to you, Zach. I know you guys would train, you know, 4 times a week and travel on Fridays and come back on Sundays. So, you know, you were pretty much in the Florida Rush residency camp with Nate and Sean, I think. So
Absolutely.
if you want to talk about that a little bit, you know.
Yeah, so for me, I was fortunate enough to have parents that were willing to sacrifice. So for me, I didn't live close to where we trained at the time with Rush. So for me, a big sacrifice was me, you know, making that drive out to, at the time it was West Orange. I don't know if you guys still train out there now or not.
Yeah.
But making that drive to West Orange, you know, 4 times a week, possibly 5, depending on how Nate was feeling and if he wanted to get a 5th session in. And then, yeah, like you said, traveling on the weekends, whether it was, you know, Region 3 League, State Cup, when we made it to Nationals, Regionals. So obviously a lot of travel goes into it, which is a sacrifice. Obviously the time. And then even post Florida Rush and going on into college, Nico obviously went to UNC, so that's moving away from family and being away from loved ones. I didn't quite go that far. I was still in state, but I was up in the Panhandle at West Florida. And then even on to after college, going across the ocean to another continent, another country, and being away from family and loved ones as well. It's a sacrifice that I was willing to make, and you have to be too. And that's part of the game. There's sacrifices, whether it's being away from loved ones, not going to a high school prom, not going to these other outside activities that you want to be a part of as a kid growing up. That you have to be willing to make that sacrifice.
Yeah, they always seem to want to schedule the state tournaments when it's prom time, right? So,
Yeah.
And if you guys would just talk about the recruiting process, how was it? When did you commit? And who helped you during your process? Zach, you want to start?
Yeah. So I had a lot of help, whether it was from my parents, Coach Nate at the time. He was very helpful with getting packets together and not leaving it up to the schools reaching out to us, but to us reaching out to schools. Any colleges or universities that we were interested in, making sure that we were reaching out, getting into contact with the right coaches, the right recruiters. And as far as when I committed actually pretty late. I think I committed just before summer. So like right before I graduated high school, my senior year, I committed, which I guess is considered a late commitment.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of help along the way. Like I said, parents, coaches. It is a process. The one thing I learned is not to wait too long on it. It's never too early to start. Whether you're a sophomore or junior in high school, the sooner you start, the better chance you give yourself of getting into that school that you want to.
Yeah, and another important piece is make sure you're the one recruiting the school. Don't wait on them to recruit you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And Nico, same to you. You were in residency camp, UNC. Who helped you? How was your process and with a major D1 school, and when did you commit to UNC?
Well, first off, I want to get into something Zach said that I think is really important, and you just touched on it too. Is kind of you're the one recruiting the school. So, one thing I would recommend to all the people on this call is have a list of dream schools. It could be anywhere around the country, anywhere around the world that you'd want to play for, and kind of have that list, and then find information for like the head coach, the emails, contacts, whatever it is, and then also do that with schools in state. And I think that's an important thing to do prior to anything else. Is you're the one kind of looking into it and educating yourself on the schools and the coaches you contact. For me on my end, it was a little bit different of a process, and I can say I'm honestly really blessed the way it worked out because I was in residency and with that World Cup team. Really, you have all these big schools coming out to you and kind of recruiting you. So that kind of was lucky on my end, where I didn't necessarily have to do as much reaching out and that kind of sorts of things. But for me, I actually committed really, really late, just because I was in between considering professional sports right away or going to college. And so I committed actually my senior year in April. So it was very late in my senior year. Like I said, luckily I had options and I was, pretty highly recruited just because of where I was. But I decided UNC at the time. It's obviously a great school academically, and that kind of played a huge part in my decision. And for me, people that helped me out, my older sister, who kind of always led the way in soccer and in school. So I was just following her footsteps, and she knew kind of the process going in of how it works, what you need to do. And then I also had academic advisors and my parents who helped kind of guide me and make the right decisions going forward with the whole recruiting process.
And now to move into your guys' your college career, but Zach, we'll start with you. How did you know you picked the right school? When you ended your recruiting process and ended up committing to West Florida, how did you know it was the right fit for you?
For me, I was fortunate enough to be able to go up on an official visit with the university before I committed. and went up there, met with the coach, got to tour the campus, got to meet some of the guys that were already on the team. And that was a big thing, was being able to meet the coach, meet the players, get a feel for how the program was run, how the coaching staff was. And it just really felt like home. I was far enough for me. I was far enough away from home, but still in state, to where it felt like I was out of state. And it was far enough away to really experience, college life by myself, away from being so close to home. But yeah, basically when I went up there to meet with the coach, and sat down with him, my mom and dad, it just felt, I could feel it. It felt like a right fit. And I was happy, with my decision, obviously, to attend that university.
And Nico, you kind of touched on it already, with the academics and your sister helping lead the way. But what was that one thing about Chapel Hill that, made you feel this is where I want to be for the next 4 years?
I think it was a balance of everything. I think that school is, it's an unbelievable university where they kind of balance everything out perfectly, in my opinion. Obviously, like I said, the academics was a huge part, but also it's, one of the bigger sports schools all around. I mean, every sports team there is competing, whether it's for a national championship or a conference championship every year. And so that kind of atmosphere as an athlete kind of motivated me and inspired me. And I felt like, if I'm going to go to this school, I got to do big things and I got to kind of carry my weight. And so that was very enticing to me and kind of made me want to definitely be a part of, the Chapel Hill lifestyle.
Right. And, sorry, this was for your sister, actually. So that's why it says Columbia, but we'll switch it to West Florida and UNC. But, what was the hardest part about being away from home? Besides not cooking.
Well, I mean, that was definitely a rough one to leave. But overall, I mean, it was tough, just being away from family and friends and, what you're kind of comfortable with. And that's something that I think, is always a huge challenge, is getting out of your comfort zone. And I mean, you can relate that to anything in soccer and really anything in life. But yeah, just kind of getting out of my comfort zone and meeting new people, working with a new coach who has different philosophies and that kind of, different weather, different foods, different culture all around. And so I think that's something that's really difficult to kind of manage, but I think it's necessary to kind of continue your growth as a soccer player and as a person all around.
Yeah. And Zach, you might have still been in the state of Florida, but it's still quite a trip to West Florida. So
yes, it is.
What was the hardest part for you to be away from home?
I think Nico said it perfect, as far as just being willing to get out of your comfort zone, knowing that mom and dad aren't right there next to you to help you through it, and just growing as a person, growing into a young adult, experiencing life on your own, making decisions, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and just continuing to grow as a soccer player, as a person, and just figuring life out, on your own, and not having, like I said, mom and dad there to always help.
And going in as a freshman, I want to ask both of you, what the training environment look like as a freshman, especially on the boys' side? I think it can be a bit intimidating when you walk in as a 18-year-old. How did you have to adjust that first year? Zach, you want to start?
Yeah, so my first year there, we actually had quite a few internationals that were quite a few years older than me, grown men. I'm coming in as an 18-year-old, and some of these dudes are, pushing, 25, 26, 27. So I'm just a, scrawny little kid out of high school coming in, and the pace is a lot faster. The game is more physical. Guys are stronger, guys are bigger, guys are faster. It's just being able to adjust to the speed of play, constantly thinking, and just trying to, for me, it was not make a mistake, not mess up, and just kind of fit into what they had already had going on at the program.
And Nico, you were coming out of residency, but still, playing with kids your own age and going into a top 25 Division I program. So, what was that training environment like, and how did you have to adjust that first year?
I mean, like Zach said, you have, a lot of older guys, and definitely, I mean, one thing about the transition from club and high school to college is the physicality of it. But another thing you always got to consider is, like, these guys have been here 3 or 4 years. kind of in this philosophy and in this environment, and you're the new guy. And so for you, I think it's important to kind of keep in mind that, you got to adapt to this new philosophy, whether it's the coach's philosophy, this new environment, new personalities on the team, and kind of being open to all these new ideas and concepts, because that's really what's going to help you, I think, succeed. And the most important part is being the best teammate you can, because overall, it's all about the collective. And if you're all trying to be successful, you're trying to, whether it's compete in your conference, compete, at the NCAA level, whatever it is. So yeah, I think it's something that you have to keep in mind, is just always be adaptable and adjust and be open to whatever environment you're going into.
Absolutely. Love that key word, be adaptable. Was it difficult to have to juggle academics with your soccer in college?
I mean, I could definitely say yes. Yes. UNC being the soccer, being a big part of it, athletics, they expect a lot on the field. And another thing is, it's such a great academic school that they expect a lot academically as well. And that's the priority. So at the beginning, it does, it is a challenge to manage both. You go straight from weights, you have 30 minutes to get changed, eat, and run over to your class, and so that's at the beginning very challenging. You learn how to manage time. You start to prioritize what's important, going to hang out with my friend and, in the dorm room and playing some video games or getting this assignment done. And those are the kind of things that, maybe in high school you can kind of, take off or procrastinate a little bit. But when it comes to the collegiate side, it does become a little more challenging, and you do have to be more responsible. But overall, you adapt and you get used to it just like anything else. And then the next thing you know, you're getting through everything pretty easily because you've adapted.
Yeah. Zach, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, that's definitely an adjustment period, and you just got to find the right balance and be able to balance school and soccer. Obviously, my school isn't as prestigious as Nico's at UNC, but at any school you go to, whether it's in Division III, Division II, Division I, you have to find that right balance of managing your time, making sure you're getting to class, getting work done, but also being able to perform on the field. So I think the biggest thing for me is was time management and managing your time and knowing when you have what and making sure you're getting everything done.
Yeah, it's such an important skill, and easier to learn young than to learn when it's crunch time, right? So what was your biggest struggle? Zach, we'll start with you playing college ball, and how did you manage it?
My biggest struggle. At first, it would obviously be, like we talked about earlier, is the physicality, how physical the game gets. I'm not a very, very big person. I'm tall, but I'm slender. I'm a skinny guy. So to make that transition to college, or especially here in the U.S., college soccer, it's a physical game. It's fast paced. So just being able to keep up and like Nico said earlier, adapt is a big part of the game. So yeah, I feel like that would be the biggest thing for me.
Nico, how about you?
I mean, I don't think any of you have seen me in person, and Zach can definitely confirm this, but I'm literally like 5 foot, tiny little guy. Maybe I was a little bit quick, but overall, the physicality, going from club and then with the national team, it was a lot more technical of a game, and tactical, and going into college where it's, you're going against, like Zach said, these men, and I'm a 18-year-old, boy who happens to look like a 12-year-old at the time, so kind of just like managing that, it was difficult at the beginning, but, and it seems like it's the reoccurring, trait to have, but it's being adaptable. So eventually, you learn to deal with it, whether it's, you find your strengths and kind of work with them within this in college and in the sport, or you go to the gym and you start lifting a little bit and you start getting stronger and kind of trying to help yourself be as successful as possible by adapting is the biggest, I think, thing that helped me and eventually helped me be successful going forward in my college career.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we already talked about that. So Nico, if you want to touch on playing, that team that went to the College Cup and maybe, when when you knew that that team was going to be special. I mean, I remember watching them play in 2016, and you guys had some definite some beasts, and you guys played well together. But just the environment, the culture around the group, and like I said, maybe when you knew, hey, we've got a chance here.
So for me, I mean, that team was very special. It's one of the better soccer teams I think I've ever been a part of. Even, I mean, along with this rush team that Zach and I finished up on our last year, that was one of the best teams I've seen as well. But I mean, I think when I noticed it was going to be a special team was actually our spring season going into the next 2016 season. We we were a little bit, I would say, salty and hurt from the previous year. We weren't successful in the tournament, and so I think instead of kind of being sad and saying bye to the seniors and kind of we changed our mindset. We're like, from the beginning that spring season we were playing against USL teams. And beating them, 3-0, 4-0. And I saw that mindset that we had where it's like, this year is going to be a big year for us. And then for myself, personally, I felt the responsibility of taking some of the freshmen coming in, taking them under my wing and helping them, because they were very good players as well that contributed right away coming into the new season. And so I think overall the atmosphere was, we're going to find ways to win. We're not going to get down on ourselves. One of the games we actually played at FGCU was the first round it was our first game of the NCAA tournament, and we were down, I think it was 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was kind of the epitome for me, like, of the whole season for us was how, instead of feeling bad for ourselves, we kind of came back and we decided, we're not going to let this be the end of our season. And we came back and ended up winning 3-2 in overtime. And that's kind of what led us and gave us momentum to get to the College Cup that year.
Yeah. And moving into your guys' professional, and Nico, we're going to talk a little bit about the residency camp as we go on, but more into the professional realm. Who helped you the most continue your career into your professional career? And, Zach, we'll start with you.
That's a good question. I probably have to say my parents. Honestly, they were big motivators for me. They knew that it was my dream, my goal to play at the next level professionally after college. So just to have their support throughout the entire process of trying to get my professional career started was huge for me, knowing that I had both parents that were fully 100% behind me and my goals and pursuing at all costs, pretty much.
Yeah, it's definitely a family dream, to it has to
Absolutely.
be a family commitment, I guess, to follow those kind of dreams. So, Nico, I know your family, and I know your sister touched on it a lot, but I know how close they are, and they pushed you into that. But anybody else outside of your mom, dad, and chasing your sister and showing you're the best Melo in the group?
I mean, I would say also just like coaches in the past, I would stay in contact with my coaches from national teams. Even my college coach helped me a lot. Stuff like that, and people you've kind of have been a part of the whole journey along the way, and they helped definitely with any kind of advice, even opinions. A lot of people have different ideas and concepts of what you're going through, and just hearing different options kind of always helps kind of marinate in your mind and put together probably the best decision for yourself. So it's a big group of people that played a part in this.
Yeah, and extremely important a piece of advice, listening to everything everybody in those influential situations have to say, and helping you through. And you don't have to always do what they say, but at least listen and take their advice. So, and Nico, if you want to talk about getting that first call into the residency camp, and I guess just your emotions and feelings, and a lot of kids have that dream, but if you just want to relive it for a minute and talk to our kids about what it felt like.
Oh man, that was, I think, one of the happiest days in my life. I'll never forget it. I was in Publix. I was buying I was doing some groceries with the family, and I got a call, and I just, everything just stopped, but I mean, it was an unbelievable, for me, what's so special about that moment when I got called into the national team for the first time was 2 to 3 years prior to that, we actually, with Rush, went down to Bradenton to play a tournament down there. And I remember it so vividly. After one of the games that we passed by a banner, and on the banner it said the U17 national team, like residency program. And to me, I mean, I don't want to say it was like that moment I decided I want to be, you know, that I'm going to make it there, because that's, you know, it's a big dream. But I think it was kind of like, what is it going to take to get there? And that kind of, in that moment, that seed was planted in my head, like, how can I get there? And that's where it was just a day in, day out. From that moment, I think everything switched, and my game took a whole, you know, different level. And I started pushing myself to this new standard. And then, you know, a couple of years later, I was there, and that's why it was kind of such a special moment to get that call and be called into that team.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna throw you on the spot here, but you know, you saw that sign, so you know, here's big dream. You know, what did you do to have to say, you know, break that dream down a little bit? You know, you have a big dream, but you have to set small goals to achieve those big dreams. So maybe just, you know, 2 or 3 things that you said, look, I got to do this if I'm going to get to that position.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were like, I think that's the epitome of getting anywhere is having dreams and kind of structuring them out, right? You have one big dream, you know, and from there it's you find, you know, maybe 3, 4, 5 smaller dreams, stages, and then from there are smaller stages that you have to accomplish before getting there. And so for me, it was I definitely needed to work a lot on my the defensive aspect of my game. Along with scoring more goals. I'll never forget. I was at a region camp, and a national team coach was there, and he told me, "Listen, like, you're a great player, all this, whatever it is, but if you don't score goals, it doesn't really amount to anything, right?" And so that moment kind of clicked, and after seeing that banner, it really clicked even more. Where it was like, you know what, I need to start working on my finishing. You know, whether it's from outside the box, in the box, all types of finishing. And I really started working with my dad and my sister on finishing as much as possible. And I mean, eventually, during my time of residency, I would say I was top 3, top 2 goal scorers like throughout the whole 2 years because of that.
Fantastic. And you know, preparations for national team camp, and then Zach, I'm gonna also ask you, you know, preparations for getting called into that first professional team that you went into. So, Nico, any you know, final preparations that you cleaned up heading into your first residency national team camp, getting ready for that World Cup?
I mean, it's really just sharpening. You know, try to sharpen all the facets of your game as much as possible. One thing I would say, you know, it's crucial to going into anything like this is being physically prepared. And so for me, just being at the best physical state, I think, you know, up there in my life played a huge role, because the better shape I'm in, the more under control I am with the ball, the more comfortable I am with the ball. And it leads into the 90th minute, because, you know, in a game, all it takes is one moment and you change the game. Look at Messi, you know, in the World Cup in 2014. It takes one moment, and it makes all the difference. It gets you to the next round. And so for me, that was a huge asset that I thought I needed to strengthen, and I really got prepared prior to that first call up and that first international cap with them.
Great. And Zach, we'll lead this into also playing professionally overseas, and you know, that trip to Sweden, and you know, being away from family, and knowing, you know, this is my dream and I'm chasing it, and just being, you know, having to play in a foreign country.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was honestly a dream come true to be able to have that first opportunity to go, you know, to go overseas. Like I said earlier, you know, growing up, that was always, you know, my goal and my dream was to be able to play at the next level professionally. And like Nico said, a big thing is just being fit. You know, obviously that's a big part of the game, and so just to make sure I was ready physically, along with, you know, mentally as well. Just being fit and as fit as I could be going over there. Then once I got over there, also, you know, you want to fine tune your skills and make sure that, like Nico said, every facet of your game is up to par, because it's a different game over there. You know, they live and breathe, you know, soccer over in Europe, and so it's obviously taken very seriously. Not that it's not here, but over there it's the way of life. You know, they live for that sport. So to be able to go over there and play in a foreign country, you know, learn, you know, a new culture, and just, you know, grow as a person, being in an uncomfortable situation like we talked about earlier, getting out of your comfort zone. and being willing to do that. And for me, it was just, all about chasing that dream.
Yeah, the one thing I keep hearing you guys say, and I hope the kids are listening, is you got to get out of your comfort zone if you want to achieve your dreams. And that's it's a huge piece of advice. So I'll let both of you guys answer this. So, the culture around the professional environment, everybody says their dream is to play professionally, but it's a different world once you walk into that system. So Zach, you want to start with what the cultures have been like with the groups that you've been with, and then Nico we'll let you add on.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously when my first 2 professional seasons were in Sweden, the environment's different over there. I was my both years I was one of only 2 or 3 internationals on the team. So they speak a foreign language. They speak Swedish, obviously in Sweden, but a lot of them grow up speaking English. So the language barrier wasn't really a problem for me. A lot of team talks were done in another language, but you kind of get the gist of stuff when stuff's being put on the board and they're drawing stuff out. And whatnot. So that wasn't really a huge deal for me as far as the language barrier. But I think a big thing in the professional environment, just the next level, is consistency. It's a big thing. Is just being consistent. It's the small things, the little things that add up at the next level, and getting your game to the next level is the small things. But
great. Yeah, that's great. And Nico, you wanna add on to that?
I mean, I think Zach did an awesome job. I would say, like you said, consistency is huge, and when it comes to playing at a professional level, really it becomes a job there. And yes, it's a dream, and you have fans, and you're doing what you love, but at the same time, it can all go away pretty fast if you don't perform, and that's where consistency plays a huge role, where you have to perform day in and day out, and kind of manage that as best as you can. And the best way to do that is prepare. When we go back to that is prepare as best as you can for situations, and then when it comes to game time, you're ready, and everything's just muscle memory from there, right? But yeah, it's, I think the biggest difference from collegiate, club, all that is it's kind of, you have to perform consistently day in and day out if you want to continue to have a career.
Yeah, now it's a job, right?
Yeah,
It really is a job. So just to give some advice to our younger players, I'm going to start with Zach, because Nico, I'm going to pull up the link that you sent me when you and I are chatting about it. But just some advice to our younger players. I'm going to put these up there, but maybe some advice training during lockdown, and recruiting, the recruiting process, any advice you might give during lockdown.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as advice goes, just constantly doing something to better yourself, whether it's getting out in the backyard or wherever you've got space, and juggling a ball for 15, 20, 30 minutes, whether it's fitness, going on a run, just continuing to do stuff to better yourself as a player, as a person, as a kid growing up, to help further your game. Let's see what else is up there. Recruiting process during lockdown, that's tough. Obviously we're in a unique situation that has never happened before. We've been out of college for so long. I'm not even sure how the recruiting process is, if it's still the same, if it's any different, what the rules are. So I don't know how much advice I can give as far as the recruiting process. Just that, like we mentioned earlier, make sure you're your own recruiter. You want to recruit the schools that you want, making sure you're reaching out, and doing everything that you possibly can on your end, to make sure you've got the best chance to get into the schools that you want to get into. And obviously, it's like the screen says, as far as setting goals, you want to start short and, have those add up to long term. And then you obviously want your big dream goals. Like for me as a kid, my big one was reaching the professional level and being able to say, that I'm a professional soccer player. It's just having those, no dream is never too big. So don't be afraid to dream big, obviously, and hopefully one day it'll become successful.
Yeah. Dream big, but work short, right? Dream big, work short. So, Nico, I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull this up real quick if I can find it. But if you want to go ahead and start talking about what's on the screen, and also your advice for the kids during this time.
Yeah, I mean, like Zach said, I think the biggest thing is just keep trying to improve yourself right? So you're at home, and I remember when I was, your age, I was still juggling the ball every day around the house, dribbling around the house, whatever it was. And so for me, I think it's something that's during this whole quarantine and this epidemic is just constantly have a ball at your feet, go out for an hour and just work on something that you haven't perfected, because you never really do perfect something. You can always improve. And so on the screen right now is this app, and I just recommend it. I've been doing it on my own, just to stay in shape and keep working. And it's a fun way to kind of keep pushing yourself. It's called Home Court. And so it's actually a basketball app, but they just started adding soccer to it. And so one of the things you can do is work on your dribbling, and it's an interactive way to kind of train and have a good time and challenge yourself. It has shows your score at the end of every minute, and so you kind of try to push yourself and keep pushing yourself to get better. I mean, I don't know if you guys can see the videos. Maybe videos won't show, but I just really recommend to download it and kind of keep yourself busy with this and other stuff. Find videos on YouTube of skills that you try but you've never been able to do, and keep practicing until you get them, because there's nothing more rewarding than you spending an hour in the garage sweating your butt off, and then you finally get it. There's nothing better than that. And so, yeah, I would say just, keep pushing yourself, keep training at home, have a ball by your feet at all times. And I guarantee that makes a difference. You guys get back on field.
And
it is a really difficult time. It's called Home Court.
Okay.
So you can download it. You can download it on your phone. It's actually free till May 31st. So you guys can test it out, check it out, and see if you guys like it. I mean, like I said, I've been using it, and it's really fun and really user friendly. So I recommend it. Zach, even you, man, like you want to do something while you're bored. Have all your teammates up there in Michigan and start challenging this thing, man. I'm telling you, it is a blast. It is a blast. And they have a bunch of different workouts without the soccer ball, just like CrossFit training. Yeah, man, I really recommend it. But in terms of the recruiting process, during this lockdown, you can see it in a positive. Everybody's on pause right now, and so right now, what a great time to like Zach said, make a list of schools you want to contact. Work on your a letter that you want to send to a coach, that a template that you can send to every single coach with just changing the names and a couple details. But work on that stuff and have it prepared, so when things start going again and we get the green light for everything to start working, you're ready and you have a step ahead of everyone else. I think that's a huge thing that you can take advantage right now. And then in terms of setting goals is, have that dream breaking down into smaller goals. Whether it's I want to lead the team in assists, or I want to, whatever it is, kind of push yourself. I want to be, I want our team to get to a certain point in state cup or whatever it is you're doing. And then it turns into the shorter term goals, like your personal, I want to improve my left foot. I want to get 100 juggles with my left foot. I want to be able to, get to a certain level on the beep test, whatever it is important to kind of have those short-term goals, and that's going to push the longer ones and eventually lead you to your dream. And I mean, Zach and I think are good examples of that kind of happening, is just constantly pushing ourselves and never really, being complacent. And then the last thing I do want to say, which I think something that really stuck for me, that I think about is talent, in my opinion, doesn't exist, right? So growing up, you hear, oh my gosh, you're so talented, all of this. And in my opinion, I used to, take it in like, oh my God, I don't need to work hard. I'm talented. I'm so talented. Everyone tells me I'm so talented. But then, in retrospect, I look back and I'm like, it was never that I was talented. It was always that I put in more hours, more time, more effort, more sweat, more blood, whatever it was, into soccer than anybody else. And so when it came time to being on the field, it looked like it was talent and it looked like so natural, but it's because I spent hours doing it while others were, just sitting on the couch watching TV. So I think don't think anywhere working your effort really makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one thing that I remember from your guys' group, and all the boys around your guys' ages was they were always at the field. Every time I was out there, your guys' group was out there and you were working. Even when they'd shut the lights off and I'd hear Nate or Sean yelling across the no, we're going one more. And, you guys just put in the work, always putting in the work. So, definite role models to our kids. And I just want to remind all the boys that, during this time, as you're making your list of 20 schools, and, feel free to reach out to me and have a, one-on-one Zoom call with me, and we can go through that list of schools and really break it down about what you guys are wanting to do and where you're wanting to go, and make sure you've got the right schools on your list. So I want to open it up to everybody to ask questions. The easiest way is to do it through the chat box, and I'll ask them. But, if you really want to talk to Nico or Zach before we wrap up, now's a good time to raise your hand, and I'll unmute you as we go. But so go ahead and fill in those questions. Sometimes the boys are a little bit more shy than the girls are. I think I could have kept your sister on here for like an hour and 20 minutes and just questions. So let's see what.
To be fair, she did have some girls that my sister trades that we train with. So we knew a good amount of them.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing I do want to say, Trent, is I can, if anyone want to reach out to me as well, and just pick my brain a little more, or want some advice, I'm more than gladly to talk to them as well, and give them my 2 cents on my experiences if they want more, more detail.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Same goes for me as well. Everybody's wanting to reach out, feel free.
Yep.
Lines are always open.
Yeah, so I'll put it out there so that we don't, drop your guys' cell phone numbers on Zoom or anything. But anybody that wants to take these two up on that offer, feel free to reach out to me through email, and I'll make sure that you get their contact information. Nico, you're still in town for now.
Yes.
And Zach just headed back up to Michigan to hopefully get back into the season, as we hope we are down here as well. But I think these boys are being shy tonight. So
don't be shy, guys.
Oh, here we go.
Any questions?
So we have a question from Landon. To what made your national championship team at Rush so special? And we know it wasn't Coach Nate, even though he's not on here. We know it.
No. I mean, we did. I mean, Nate was a big part of it.
Nate was awesome.
Nate knew how to get the best out of all of us. I think the biggest thing was we were a dedicated group. We didn't have a bunch of special players. We had a few special guys, but our core group. We were just all willing to put in the hours, put in the work, put in the time, and just make ourselves better. And I think a big part of it was that first year. That we kind of got together. It was a process. There were growing pains, as there are with anything else, and so it just pushed us. And Nate pushed us, and we pushed ourselves, and we pushed each other. I think that was a big thing as well, as we were always pushing each other to be better. Nobody was satisfied, with just being okay with being mediocre. We wanted to be a great team. And I think that pushed a lot of us, and that's what made us so special and allowed us to win that 2012 national championship.
Yeah, I would agree. And I go back on the commitment and the sacrifice you guys made. And really, even the team, I think that was underneath you, that Coach Sean coached. I mean, you guys were out there battling every single night against each other. And what's the best way to try and elevate your teammates? That's such a great question, Nick. So I really want to open that up to both of you guys, because that's a great question. And you both have played with a lot of different players, and players that have probably motivated you and elevated your play, as well as players you've elevated. So, Zach, you want to start with that?
Yeah, definitely. I think a good way, obviously, is making sure that your skills are fine-tuned. The better you are, the better you can make the players around you. I think that's a good measurement of a good player, is how well they make the players around them play better, and just pushing them to not be satisfied with themselves, and wanting them to want to get better. It's obviously got to be. It comes down to the individual and them wanting to grow their game and be a better player.
Absolutely. Nico?
Yeah, I mean, spot on what Zach said. I think more than anything, I think the best way to motivate somebody is by you yourself putting in the work, right? If they see you're doing it and you're working hard and you're showing it day in and day out, then it makes you just more and more credible to others. So when you do ask, hey, push yourself a little more, work a little harder. Come on, let's just do one more. You're leading by example instead of just saying, what to do. And that, I think that's a huge trait that kind of changed everything for me. It was having leaders that instead of just talking, they backed it up with their actions. And then just being positive. I mean, I think being positive goes a long way, right? You can always push people to be better in a positive way, and instead of bringing them down, motivate them and kind of show to them that it goes a long way, and it makes the difference in the long run. So just being positive and holding yourself accountable and leading by example.
Yeah, you can't ask somebody to do something if you're not willing to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And we got another question to go back to your academics. So, Nico, we'll start with you. What was your major, and what made you choose them? And then I'm going to take it a step further. And what's life look like after soccer?
So my major is sports administration. So I definitely wanted to stay within sports. Obviously it's played such an instrumental role in my life. And so for me, I definitely wanted to study something that I'm really passionate about. Right now I'm actually working with the U.S. Open for tennis. So luckily my major kind of pushed me in that direction, and now I'm working with the U.S. Open and USTA, if you guys know what that is, to hold one of the the biggest tennis tournaments in the world, and I'm working with some of the most elite athletes in tennis history and in sports history. So I think I was lucky enough to where I got to go to a great school, and I picked the major that I'm passionate about, and it kind of led to this. So definitely, soccer is a stepping stone to other things later on in life after you're done playing.
And Zach, you want to add anything onto that? Or what was your major? Sorry, and what made you choose?
No, you're fine. So I majored in business and sport management. Obviously, I wanted to stay in the sport realm and stay in that field. That's just what I love. Obviously, soccer is my passion and what I love the most. But just sports in general, is something that has been a big part of my life. So to stay around that, obviously, I don't know what life after soccer is like yet, because I'm still pursuing that dream while I still can. But hopefully, it is still in this, the sports realm and involved with soccer, whether it's coaching, being a part of a professional organization, but just sticking around the sport, just because it's the game I love, and it's the game that I've grown up playing.
Absolutely. And we have another question, and I think I know which direction you guys are going to go with it, just from when you both committed. So, we have a question that says, at what point should I give up on trying to play in college? And, I'm sure both of you probably went through that, committing late and just saying, I'm never going to make it. But, I'll let you guys answer it.
I mean, I can gladly take that. I don't think you should ever give up on that, right? I can tell you, I committed really late. Like Zach said, Zach committed really late. And one thing that I think you got to keep in mind is just because you don't get recruited on a soccer team doesn't mean you can't join it while you're in college. There were walk-ons on the team that ended up being starters, and they took the position of somebody else who got complacent. And so I think the biggest thing is just keep pushing yourself, put in the work, which is, I think, the biggest and most important part. And then just keep reaching out and keep, I don't want to say bothering, but keep, letting the coach know that you want this, that you really do want this, and you're willing to do anything for it. And never give up on that, because it's always a possibility. So I would just say, just keep trying no matter what.
Yeah, that was great. Anything you want to add, Zach?
Yeah, just 100% agree with Nico. I don't think you should ever give up on anything that you're passionate about, or that any dreams you have. I think there's a school out there for everyone. I mean, there's a ton of colleges and universities in the United States, and I truly believe there is a school for everyone out there that's trying to play. But I think a big thing is just being open to other possibilities. Maybe you have a list of schools that you've got down to 10, 15, however many it is, but there's a school out there that's not on your radar that is a possibility of you playing at. So just being open to something different, and being willing to do something that's not necessarily on your list.
Yeah, it's exactly how I would have answered that from both of you guys. The walk-on story, Nico, is fantastic, especially at a school that competed at the College Cup and perennially ranked top 25. But as long as everybody keeps their the door open and is adaptable and accepts going into uncomfortable situations, there's a place for you to go play at. So We have another question that just came in. So if you can't make it to pro after college, is there still a way to make it?
Oh, I mean, definitely. I will say, like, so I'm done playing. It doesn't mean I'm done for life. I always stay in shape, and if I do want to give it another try, kind of like my sister, decided to go for it and quit her job and go play again. But soccer, I would say, shouldn't solely define you, right? So that's one thing I kind of changed in my mindset, right? So soccer was my whole life growing up, and eventually, it made opened all these doors for me, right? And made so many opportunities. But I think an important thing to have is that it's not necessarily just the soccer and getting, being successful in soccer and a pro soccer player that you should keep in mind. It's all the lessons it teaches you, right? It teaches you to work hard. It teaches you to be responsible. It teaches you to, sacrifice things that you wouldn't normally sacrifice, right? And so for me, it opened the door to go to college and get a great education, and which led into a job that I'm really passionate about. And so now I'm having this whole new aspect of my life that I'm passionate about just because of soccer, right? So don't get frustrated if it doesn't work out. Try your hardest and don't give up on it. But know that there is so much more to soccer, and so much more to life after soccer, right? Just use it as a stepping stone to get, to accomplish things and enjoy life. But there's so much more than just soccer.
Yeah, and Nico, correct me if I'm wrong, but his sister's story. She was working in an office doing sports management, sports administration in New York, and up and decided to hop on a plane and go to Colombia and made it onto a professional team, right? So the opportunity is still there,
Yeah, she had an unbelievable job in New York. She was working for FC Barcelona on the sports management side, and then she was like, you know what, I'm passionate about soccer, and I'm gonna just switch it up and give it a try, and that's another thing. Take risks and don't have regrets. Just learn from experiences and keep pushing forward and try to improve.
Absolutely. And Zach, anything you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think for me, actually, personally, my journey is a perfect, answer for this question. When I graduated in the spring of 2016, and I didn't go overseas right away. I went and played. At the time, Jacksonville Armada was an NASL team, and they had a U23 team. And so that summer after I graduated, I went to Jacksonville and played there for summer. Didn't end up working out after that. So I went home back to Orlando, and I worked for about a year and a half, and I didn't have my first opportunity to go to Sweden until 2018. So I was home for a year after I graduated before I made that step and got the opportunity to go play overseas. So if it doesn't happen right away, it doesn't mean you stop chasing. I think if it's something you truly love and is a goal of yours, then you chase it with everything you have for as long as you can or as long as you want. And that's what I did. I went home and I continued to work on my game and just stay prepared until that opportunity arose. And then I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity.
Yeah, well, that's great. Definitely, like you said, perfect example of that question. There's opportunities to go out there and play, summer ball, under 23 ball, and work yourself back into that. So I'll open it back up to any last second questions, but on behalf of myself, Coach Eric, Coach Sean, Coach Eddie, who's in attendance, the directors and the leadership at Florida Rush, and all of our coaching staff and players, I wanted to thank you guys, one, for paving the pathway at Florida Rush and setting a great example and being role models, and also opening yourself up to having the players contact you is, it's such an important role for us and our kids. So if anybody, wants to reach out to Nico or to Zach, or in the next, couple of days comes up with a question that you thought of after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will get in contact with them or get you in contact with them. And if you want to see the battles between Nico and his sister, they're probably at a soccer field near you pretty soon. So, feel free to go out and watch those. But Nico's little sister also plays in the club, and Nico and his sister are around the field.
Rush for life.
Yeah.
Rush for life.
Trey, guys,
I want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to say thank you to you and all the coaches. first for hosting this, and then in general, Zach and I wouldn't be where we are if it weren't for Rush, and Florida Rush. And so, just this is a small little gesture from Zach and I, and a way to give back to, to the club and to the kids that are, going to keep representing Rush in the next, decade. So thank you guys so much for this. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a pleasure being on speaking with you guys, and hope you learned something. And like Trent said, if you guys want to reach out, definitely feel free to. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this.
Yeah, and as we've talked about in the past, we always want to leave our Rush jersey in a better place than when we first got it. And Nico and Zach, you two definitely left it in a better place. So we can't thank you enough. But we hope you guys stay safe and stay well. And Zach, best of luck in your professional season this year. And Nico, we will see you around the fields in the summer, I'm sure, with your little sister. So thank you guys. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Everybody stay safe.
Thank you. Take care, guys. Big hug and stay safe.
Thank you.